Good evening and welcome to Poland Daily, the first English news program in Poland. I am your host, Benjamin Lee. The European Parliament have voted this week for the internet to be subjected to preventive filtration of content. This measure was made in the name of copyright protection, but critics called it an attempt at censorship, sparking the issue of internet freedom in the European Parliament. Jarosław Kaczynski, the leader of the Law and Justice Party, announced today that Poland will adopt the EU regulation in a way that will not harm the freedom of speech.
Wolność to jest wartość, która określa.
Freedom is an exceptional word, an exceptional concept. A concept which has been the backbone, the center of the European culture and civilization, which was built on Christianity. It also lies at the center of our culture, Polish culture. What's more, one could say that the concept of freedom is what defined our history the most. After all, our history was nothing short of seeking freedom, defending freedom, fighting for freedom, dreaming about freedom. We Poles know how important is this right. But the right to establish a country serves not only the biggest community, which is a nation, but also individuals and organizations. In these modern times, when, let's face it, there is less and less freedom, Poland will remain a bastion of liberty. Thanks to who will that happen? Thanks to the Poles and the Law and Justice Party. Thank you.
Dzięki Polakom I dzięki Prawu I Sprawiedliwości. Dziękuję.
Short reflection on ACTA 2.0. Why did they pass such a directive there in Brussels, which forcefully introduces a certain kind of regime to 500 million internet users and implements the obligatory filtering of content? At the same time, Europe can't handle issues like the VAT tax fraud on an enormous scale, which has already cost us over 150 billion euros per year, and seed tax fraud, which has cost the EU additional 160 billion euros. So they can take on freedom in internet, but to deal with financial fraud proves a bit more difficult. And that's what we want to bring with us to Europe, our experience, something we already proved is possible here in Poland, an efficient fight for higher salaries while lowering taxes. And we will succeed in this.
I to nam się uda.
For the 20th week in a row, the French Yellow Vests movement protested on the streets of French cities. The police reacted in turn in an increasingly aggressive manner, while the French banks call out to the protesters to spare their local branches. Since the protest began, 760 offices were vandalized across the country.
Violent clashes between the protesters and the police took place in places such as Bordeaux at one of the city squares. There was also property damages to one of the banks. The Yellow Vests movement still continues its demonstrations, although much points to the fact that it's being overtaken by both left and right-wing radical organizations. In Bordeaux and Paris, members of the radical Liberal Party NPA were seen among the protesters. More and more political groups and associations work for their own agendas under the guise of the Yellow Vest movement. Due to the unstable situation in the country, the French Parliament will commence a debate in the next few days as part of the national debate started by President Emmanuel Macron on January 15th. Later in spring, the government is to present the prepared solutions and bills to meet the protesters' demands and put an end to the demonstrations and violence. The Syrian crisis is still ongoing and will probably last until the government solutions see the light of day.
Dotyczącej ogólnokrajowej debaty, jak I również ustaw, które właśnie mają płynąć z tychże konkluzji.
Will comedian Volodymyr Zelensky become the president of Ukraine? This Sunday marks the first round of presidential elections, and Zelensky is leading the polls, followed by President Petro Poroshenko and the former Prime Minister Yulia Tymoshenko. Poroshenko was the driving force of the Western direction that his country is taking after the Moscow seized Crimea 5 years ago.
Volodymyr Zelensky, a professional comedian who's never held political office, shot to national prominence by playing the role of the president in a television comedy Servant of the Nation. His performance was convincing enough to top the poll at 20.9%. But even he appears to be falling far short of enough support to win in the first round. Ukrainians on Sunday will choose from among 39 candidates for a president they hope can guide the country of 42 million out of troubles including endemic corruption, a seemingly intractable war with Russia-backed separatists in the country's east and a struggling economy. President Petro Poroshenko is seeking another term, but a poll released Friday by the Kyiv International Institute of Sociology showed him with the support of just 13.7%. Tomorrow we'll learn whether it is enough to pass to the second round.
Today, Pope Francis started his 2-day trip in Morocco. The main topics of his visit to the capital, Rabat, will be a dialogue with Islam and migration. The Holy Mass for 10,000 people will take place on Sunday.
The plane with Pope Francis, his associates, and more than 70 world media workers left Rome today. The plane landed in the capital of Morocco, Rabat, in the early afternoon. Pope Francis is going there at the invitation of King Mohammed VI and the superiors of the two archdioceses, Rabat and Tangier. He will visit a Catholic community of over 20,000 people. Most of the Catholics living there are coming from Africa and Europe.
The European Parliament decided by vote that the daylight savings time will be abolished, but the new law will come into force in 2021. As of today, we still have to set our watches 2 times a year. Tonight, the clocks have to be dialed forward and we all get an hour less of sleep.
Takie oto zegary słoneczne.
This sundial is the only clock that will sleep peacefully tonight. That's because we'll have to dial our clocks forward tonight, which means that we'll get an hour less of sleep. Unfortunately, this is not good news for the sleepers, though we have good news as well. The European Parliament decided by vote to abolish the daylight savings time practice, and the last time we have to set our watches will be in 2021.
Dobrą informację odnośnie zmiany czasu. Super.
Great news, I've heard about it. For me, this law can come into force even right now.
Od dzisiaj już mogliby to zmienić.
Bardzo mi się to podoba.
I think it's great. The time change is totally useless.
Kompletnie.
Generalnie na przykład...
It interferes the sleep pattern. For example, I will probably wake up at 10 a.m. tomorrow, and I usually wake up at 9. It'll take some time for me to get used to it again.
No, zanim się przestawię, no to trochę czasu minie.
Ja mam domowy czas, bo jestem na emeryturze już.
I have a home clock. I'm a pensioner and I don't work. My wife does and she changes the time. I don't. It doesn't change a thing for me, but my wife has to go to sleep earlier to wake up for work when the clocks go forward.
Letni czas.
Zniesienie zmiany czasu jest już
The daylight savings time arrangement will be abolished. The European Union's countries will have to decide whether they want to keep the winter time change or the summer time change. A great majority of the countries, including Poland, will probably choose the winter time change. The Ministry of Digital Affairs research shows that 80% of Poles would like to keep the summer time change.
Zlecenie Ministerstwa Przedsiębiorczości i Technologii.
That's it for today. See you next time on Poland Daily. But stay tuned for the Poland Daily Weather Report, followed by the Poland Daily Business section.
Welcome to Poland Daily Weather. In this night, sky will be cloudless in the most regions. Temperature will increase to 6 degrees in Gdańsk. The minimum temperature will be 1 degree in Łódź, Lublin and Rzeszów. Pressure will be high. Wind will be gusty. Let's take a look at the forecast for tomorrow. A very nice day is expected. Lots of sun will appear around Kraków, and there we will see the highest temperatures, 19 degrees. Plenty of sunshine is expected over Poznań as well. In central Poland, temperatures will range about 16 degrees. The minimum 8 degrees will be in Gdańsk and Koszalin. Showers will appear only around Olsztyn and Warszawa. Pressure will fall. Let's see the forecast for the next days. On Sunday, rainfall will occur in all regions. Temperatures will rise to 17 degrees. On Monday, plenty of sunshine is expected in the whole country. On Tuesday, temperatures will range from 10 to 16 degrees in Śląsk. Goodbye and see you soon.
You're watching Poland Daily Business Edition. Tonight we will do a little focus group about performance of Poland Daily and needs of such production. As you know, in Poland we value better quality over quantity. So this time the focus group will be one person, but what a person. Rita Cosby, welcome to our show.
I'm delighted to be here, and I'm so thrilled also to hear so much about Poland Daily and the service that you're doing to get the story of Poland in the English language. It's fantastic. So bravo, bravo.
Well, we are doing our job humbly, but the question is, let's start from your American experience. Do you think that Polish community at large is passing our story to the world?
I think it's getting better. I do think that the Polish community could do more. I think so much of it is also the history of Poland. And I've been here during this visit with the Polish National Foundation. I feel like I've learned so much, and they're doing such, I think, a great job of getting the word out. I've seen commercials and a lot of things in America, so I give them a lot of credit and a lot of accolades for what they've accomplished. But I feel like much of it also has to do with the story of Poland. And often, you know, when you're in the epicenter, as I'm so blessed to be here in my father's homeland, Alexander, but what happened in the history of Poland, and I've learned so much even during this visit, going to the Mokotów prison and visiting General Kuklinski, the exhibition and sort of the museum honoring that great hero, is that so much of the history of Poland was suppressed for so many years. And you know that, and the people here in this country know that so well. But because of that, Poland was at such a disadvantage, not being able to get the information out, not just within Poland, but within the world. And I feel like it has only really been in the last few years that people are starting to learn more about Poland. Soon before I came here, I was spending time in Old Town where my father fought. And to be there and to see the places where my father fought so heroically and so valiantly, but it wasn't really until President Trump stood there, you know, and the world was so glued. I was so honored to see an American president and the whole world zoomed in on Old Town to be standing there in front of the monument of the fighters. So it's only been bits and pieces. Of course, to me, as a proud Polish American, not just American, but Polish American, I'm learning more. But I feel like the world is now just starting to get pieces. And so I think it's getting better, but I still think there's a ways to go.
Right. If you are going to ask top media personalities in America, this will be you to turn. And what should we be focused on when we are talking about Poland? What parts of Polish history, of Polish mentality, of Polish culture we should open to the world? Said, look, that's our input. That's something that we want you to learn from us.
I think there is never a better time than now to tell the story of Poland. And so much of life is timing. And I think right now, I look at where we are in the world, and as someone who can look certainly at the media and certainly Polish-American relations, I look at specifically, we have President Trump in the White House, who is very much a supporter of Poland. Clearly, it's no mistake that one of his earliest visits overseas was to Poland. It was, you know, during very early on in his presidency. And I think that was very much a calculated and planned effort to say, I support you, Poland. I support what you stand for, Poland. And then to also see on the other side here in this beautiful, beloved country that I consider my second homeland, to be here and to see you have President Duda, you have an incredible president, you have an incredible prime minister, and the two of them together. It's such an important time in history where the worlds are together, the American world and the Polish world, and combined, I think that that's an incredible force. And I think there's such commonalities. As someone who knows the American president and has gotten to know the Polish president, and I had the honor during this visit also to spend some time with the prime minister as well during this visit, there's a very common mentality and common, I think, spirit of democracy, of sovereignty, of pride and heritage, pride in country, pride in the military as the daughter of a Warsaw upriser. But I feel like it is an incredible moment in history, and the Polish people should not lose this moment. I don't think they have, but I also think it could also be even more increased. And I think from a criticism standpoint, I think one thing that would be helpful would be to see more of a public relations effort. I think it's definitely starting with the efforts of the Polish National Foundation and the Polish people and the president and the prime minister, but to seize on this moment, because it is there is an incredible, I think, increased respect in the world for the Polish people, and I love to see it.
The Americans are getting more interested in what is Poland and what Poland stands for.
Yes.
So in a nutshell, if we had a chance to say like 3 words to average Joe or average Johns in America, what should he or she knew about this country?
I would say love of patriotism. You asked me for 3 words. I think the American public, and much of the reason that I think President Trump was elected in America was there are people in, and of course America is divided, as many countries are divided, but if you look at, there's a spirit of patriotism that embodies him and a love of military and appreciation. And I think there's that same feeling here. What I love about Poland, and when I come back, I cry. I mean, right before, I'm very sentimental to be here because I had just walked through Old Town and just saw the plaque of Orlęta of Eaglets, which was my father's unit in Gazdawa. And not too far from here, which makes me so, so proud, Alexander. But I think there is such an incredible love of patriotism, love of country, love of freedom. The story of Poland is one that I think many Americans particularly, and anybody who loves freedom around the world, can relate to. It's a great story back to my father's time, even before my father's time, and certainly in solidarity and other moments in history and the Polish people. And it's a unique story of
generations after generations, since 250 years, people gave their lives for the freedom and for the sake of the future generations. We are these future generations, and the duty is upon us. We cannot easily just say, okay, we will live like everyone else.
Right.
We cannot.
And that's why I think Poland is unique. Certainly I have a bias and a love of this country. I consider it now my second homeland. But I feel like there's an incredibly unique story that is Poland. And I think the Polish people should not lose sight of that. They should not lose sight that it's not a story like every other country has. I mean, look, America, we fought for freedom too. There are other stories, but there's something special about Poland, and especially Warsaw. The streets of Warsaw are littered with the blood of my father's comrades and my father's blood. Thankfully, my father survived. But there is an incredibly proud, unique story of standing up time and time again, and not just even in the Warsaw Uprising, which my father was so proud to be a part of. There's a story of the solidarity. There's a story of what even happened. We just spent time in seeing the story about General Kuklinski. And you think about what he gave up to fight. Not, after, it was in 1970 that he was giving up the maps and those histories. The battle in Warsaw, the stalwart patriotism and the devout patriotism against all odds is a really unique story. And I think that that is a universal story, whether it's told in America or any other part of the globe. It is a story that anyone can take pride in, and to say, God, I want to learn about Poland. I want to learn about these incredibly heroic people. There's something unique in the Polish blood that I think everyone can take pride in.
Rita, thank you very much. Rita Cosby.
Thank you.
American TV star, top journalist, and great personality, as you noticed, was our guest tonight. And that was it for Poland Daily Business.
Welcome back to Poland Daily Weather. Let's take a look at tomorrow's forecast. We are expecting a pleasant day. Lots of sun will appear around Kraków, and there we will see the highest temperatures, 18 degrees. 18 will be in Wrocław as well. The minimum 13 degrees will be in Gdańsk. Showers will appear only around Koszalin. Pressure will fall. Let's take a look at forecast for our continent. In the Balkans, temperature will range from 15 to 17 degrees. Temperature will increase in Scandinavia to 13 in Oslo and 15 in Stockholm. Thank you for watching, and goodbye.
The Scouting Association of the Polish Republic was founded on the 12th of February in 1989. At present, the Scouting Association has over 15,000 members. It is an associate member of the Confederation of European Scouts. The Scouting Association is a public benefit organization that was established in 1989. It aims to continue the traditions and educational thought of several generations of Polish Scouts. The roots of the ZHR, or the Scouting Association, date back to 1980, when the Circle of Scouting Instructors was created. Andrzej Malkowski gathered together independent environmental scouts and instructors. The Scouting Association of the Republic is a community of friends, children, youth, and adults who, based on Christian values, through Scout leaders, work on themselves to help others. They seek adventure and pursue other elements of the Scouting life that educate a person to find a life full of happiness, to be responsible for oneself and for one's fellow citizens, and to take on the challenges of the modern world.
Told us about the pin that you have that belonged to your leader. Could you tell us something about the other pins that you have?
Bardziej musimy popatrzeć na krzyż harcerski. Jest to odznaka polskiego ruchu.
This is one of the most important badges. This is Scout's Cross that was used at the beginning of the Polish Scout movement. It was designed in 1912 at the very early stage of Scouting by Kazimierz Lutosławski. The form of the cross is very significant. It resembles Virtuti Militari, the highest Polish combat decoration. Laurel and oak wreaths symbolize the virtues of the character. The lily symbolizes the adherence to the Scouting movement, and slogan Czuwaj, or be vigilant, means that we are ready for operation and to face reality.
Oznacza na krzyżu. Stąd też to już jest taka wersja pełna. Harcerz Rzeczypospolitej, która zakłada zarówno wieńce, krąg, jak i likę w kolorze złotym.
We have a rule that the consecutive steps in a scouting career are marked on the cross. This is the full version, Harcerz Rzeczypospolitej, or Scout of the Republic. That has golden laurels, the ring and the lily. The golden lily itself demarks the 4th grade, the ring marks the Eagle Scout. These are Scout grades. Other marks are represented by pads under the cross. There are 3 such grades. Moving upwards, the blue pad means the guide, who can lead the squad. The green one marks Podharcmistrz, or Deputy Scoutmaster, that can lead larger formations or command the camp. This is also an officially recognized function. Red pad is the Scoutmaster, the highest level. This is the person who can be in charge of a regional command, lead the instructor school, or be a part of scouting authorities at a national level where it considers both boys and Girl Scouts. The tradition of these colors and symbols is taken from the era directly prior to World War II.
Na krzyżu harcerskim jest też tradycją z okresu międzywojennego.
And the other orders that you have?
To akurat jest nazwa naszej organizacji.
This is the name of our organization. To differentiate ourselves from the other Polish scouting associations, we came up with this name, ZHR, that sets us apart from other scouts. Other aspects specific to us is the instructor lily that has individual number and is given to instructors. My number, for example, is 21, and right now we are signing lilies with number over 3,000, so you can tell how many instructors we have in our association. This is also a symbol because it creates a family of instructors. Other examples include memorial badges such as the Century of the Scout Movement, or this one issued by my friends from London that is from the Polish expat scouts. This badge is in remembrance to our service at World Youth Day in Panama in 2018. It turned out that I was the oldest participant of the trip, but very young at heart.
Jak się okazało, byłem najstarszym uczestnikiem tej wyprawy, aczkolwiek bardzo młodym duchem.
During Holy Mass on World Youth Day in Krakow, Pope Francis announced that Panama would be the next host for a world meeting of Scouts. A meeting in the Southern Hemisphere was a distant target for the ZHR Scouts from Poland. The president of Panama, appreciating the involvement of ZHR in medical security, invited their representatives to meet. Participation in World Youth Day on the border between the Americas, that is Panama, between North and South America, And being in Central America is a perfect place for this gathering. The entire Polish scouting organization, in particular the Scout Volunteer Ambulance Service, are preparing themselves for this event.
What are the roles in scouting in Poland? I know that there's the leader, the instructor, the wanderer.
One się często nakładają na wieki rozwojowe. Znaczy na początku oczywiście na najniższym poziomie mamy gromady zuchowe, czyli dzieci, które przychodzą do szkół.
The levels depend on the age and development. The youngest kids are Cub Scouts or Brownies who just started to attend primary school, from 7 years old to first class of junior high. Most of the activities they do involves playing, but we introduce them to some high-level ideas of serving God, country and our fellow man. But playing and games are most important. In the summer, Brownies are not camping outdoors, but rather live in houses. The next level are the Scouts.
Nazywają się koloniami zuchowymi, zgodnie z tradycją. Następnym pionem to już są harcerze. To są młodzi ludzie, którzy zaczynają od 5. klasy wzwyż. Niektórzy przychodzą od zuchów, a niektórzy zaczynają.
These are young people who start from the 5th grade upwards. This is a very interesting period of a rapid maturing and expectation of adventure, which is exciting for young people. When we approach teenagers, some of the teens stay in their squads to take care of the younger lads. Those who don't want to become instructors can advance further and remain a ranger or rover. There is a special ranger movement. You can identify them by the badge with 3 flames on their shoulders. The challenges are bigger than, with more extreme adventures. They do things like parachute jumping or high mountain climbing. They visit shooting ranges or drive off-road.
Strzelania, czy też ekstremalne rajdy, choćby i takie jak samochody terenowe. To są wyzwania.
These are the challenges which allow them to fulfill themselves, but it's the situations when they can give something back that are the real challenges. I am talking about serving others. A classic example would be the entire history of the so-called white servicemen who were accompanying Pope John Paul II during his visits both in and outside our homeland. We would gather the organization and served by maintaining order, providing information to the people that needed it, as well as providing medical help. This brings us to the project that we were able to cover just this year, the World Youth Days in Panama, where 200 medics traveled 4,500 kilometers to help others. The participants themselves saw this as an incredible journey and adventure. To prepare this endeavor was also an enormous challenge. Fortunately, and I can say it with pride, we rose to that challenge.
Na szczęście i to chyba z dumą dobrze ocenione przez gospodarzy, czyli przez stronę panamską.
Mr. Turzański, thank you very much for this interesting conversation.
Thank you much.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Poland Daily History. Today we dive into the life and history of the great General Tadeusz Kościuszko. He is the hero of 3 nations, Poland, America, and to the Belarusians. He fought Russia twice in Poland and participated in the American Revolution War on the side of the Americans. Join us as we explore his military career and his interesting life. Our first guest is Dr. Leszek Marek Szczesniak, the head of the Polish Kościuszko Foundation. We will speak in front of the statue of Tadeusz Kościuszko in central Warsaw. Together, we will examine General Kościuszko's background and the motivation behind his lifelong quest for freedom. General Kościuszko made his mark in many wars in Poland. Before he participated in the uprising, he was also a part of the war against Russia in 1792. And I was wondering if you can elaborate a little bit about that participation in that war.
Po uchwaleniu Konstytucji 3 maja Rosja była bardzo niezadowolona. I caryca Katarzyna...
After the Polish Parliament enacted the May 3rd Constitution in 1791, Russia was very displeased. Empress Catherine the Great ordered her army to invade Poland on May 18th, 1792, in order to annul the constitution. The constitution was important because it ended Poland's subjugation to Russia. Kościuszko, as commander of Poland's army in Ukraine, decided to withdraw his forces to the Bug River since they weren't ready for a major battle against the Russians. At a place named Dubienko, by the Bug River, he constructed temporary fortifications which managed to grind to a halt the attack by Russian forces. At that moment, Kościuszko proved his skills both as a commander and an engineer. However, the Russians tricked him by crossing the border into Austria in an attempt to outflank the Polish forces. Kościuszko, under the threat of encirclement, had to retreat with his forces, but he did so without suffering any losses. This episode made Kościuszko famous as a skilled commander, especially since he had proved at Dubienko that it was possible to stop the Russians on the battlefield. Kościuszko and his forces continued their orderly retreat in the direction of Lublin until the moment when it became apparent that the Polish king had committed treason by joining forces with the so-called Targowice Confederation, a group of nobles who were against the May III constitution and had asked Russia to intervene. The king joined the confederation and ordered the Polish army to cease all military action against the Russian army, despite the fact that the Polish army was far from defeated. In reaction to this, Kościuszko started working on a plan to kidnap the king in order to make it possible for the Polish army to continue fighting. This plan did not come to fruition, and Kościuszko resigned from his role in the army. He said that the king's actions did not correspond with the agreement he had made with Kościuszko before the start of the war, so he resigned and left the country. He first travelled to Lvov and then to Dresden and Leipzig. Meanwhile, a resistant movement was formed in Poland. Large parts of the Polish army were of the opinion that the Russians could be defeated if the army were allowed to fight them. This resistance movement launched an uprising in 1794, which became known as the Kościuszko Uprising. It broke out on March the 24th, which means that we are celebrating its anniversary right now. The 225th anniversary of the uprising will be celebrated in the place it broke out, the city of Krakow. It was there that Kościuszko personally announced that he would take command of the uprising and that he would continue to fight until all enemies of Poland were forced to leave Polish territory. On April the 4th, near the village of Wrocławice, Kościuszko defeated the Russian army commanded by General Tadeusz in the first major battle of the insurrection. They managed to capture 12 Russian cannons. After that, the Poles organized a military parade through the streets of Krakow, showing the city's inhabitants that it was possible to defeat the Russian army. The Kościuszko uprising spread to large parts of the Polish lands. Units of the Polish army which had been incorporated into the Russian army soon joined Kościuszko. Kościuszko's ambition was to march on the capital, to come here to Warsaw. He soon set off, but his march was slowed down by the Russian army. At a place named Połaniec, Kościuszko had to stop and set up a fortified camp. For 2 weeks he waited for reinforcements to arrive. During that time he signed the proclamation of Połaniec. This emancipated the peasants from serfdom and promised them land reform as soon as the war was over. For the first time, peasants joined the Polish army. Until then, it had been the duty of the nobility to defend the nation. Kościuszko's army was something else. It was a democratic army. Everybody, including the peasants, were addressed as citizen. On June 6, the Battle of Szczekociny took place. It turned out to be indecisive, but Kościuszko then had to march towards Warsaw, where he arrived on July the 10th. On July the 13th, he set up his headquarters here. Meanwhile, the armies of Prussia and Russia started besieging Warsaw. Kościuszko did something incredible. He placed the Polish cannons on the Polish defense lines in such a way that the two enemy armies didn't manage to take the city, despite trying until September. The defensive battle ended in victory for Kościuszko. There was another great day for the Warsavians, especially the city's artisans, which is worth remembering, April the 17th. Exactly here, where we are sitting today, the city's inhabitants, many of whom were artisans, fought their first battle against the Russians in what became known as the 1794 Warsaw Uprising. The soldiers from the army barracks located just behind us, housing the horse guards of the Polish Crown Regiment, defeated the Russians in the First Battle of Warsaw, exactly here where we are now. The Warsaw Insurrection marked a new phase of the Kościuszko Uprising.
W koszarach ułanów mirowskich pierwszy oddział właśnie tu, gdzie jesteśmy przy pomniku, stoczył zwycięską potyczkę insurekcji warszawskiej.
Our next guest is the historian Dr. Krzysztof Jabłonka. We will speak with him in Ościnna Pomockowska, an elder forest in Warsaw which served as the Polish line of defense that managed to repel the final assault of the Prussian army during the joint Prussian and Russian siege of Warsaw in 1794 as they tried to put down the Kościuszko uprising. Soon after the establishment of the constitution between the Polish-Lithuanian Commonwealth, a war broke out with Russia. And I was wondering if you can tell me what General Kościuszko's role is during the war against Russia.
During the four-year parliamentary session which preceded the 3rd of May Constitution, it was decided that Kościuszko would command the military units in Torun in the Kingdom of Poland. Kościuszko complained about the fact that he, a native of the Grand Duchy of Lithuania, would have to reside in Torun, which was almost a different country to him. Some of his friends from the Grand Duchy, or Belarus more specifically, visited him in Torun, and a delighted Kościuszko wrote back to his family that he had received a visit from 3 friends from Lithuania, of whom one was Samogitian. This meant that the other 2 so-called Lithuanians were in fact Belarusians. With them he could speak in his native Belarusian language, but also in Polish, naturally. He was becoming more and more of a patriot of the Polish-Lithuanian Commonwealth with every passing year. In time, he became a true hero of the Commonwealth and the 4 nations on which it rested. He travelled to Warsaw when the Constitution was adopted. He witnessed the massive celebrations and the enthusiasm on the streets of the city. The people were of the opinion that it would guarantee their freedom. From Warsaw, he travelled with the royal troops deep into Ukraine. It was there, by the Dnieper River, that he and his soldiers started defending Poland from the Russian aggression, which started on 18th May 1792. The Russians crossed the Dniester River, the Dnieper River, and also entered Polish territory from the region of Podolia. They attacked the Polish army, commanded by the nephew of the Polish king, Józef Poniatowski, from 3 directions. General Kościuszko was one of the commanders serving under Poniatowski and was in charge of one of the brigades intended to fight a rearguard battle in order to slow down the Russians. Those were the circumstances in which he fought his first battle of the War of Boroszkowice, a battle which took place in May 1792. After the battle, Kościuszko and the Polish army moved deep into Ukraine. That's where they won their next battle against General Morkov, who had advanced too deep into enemy territory without securing his supply lines, and was subsequently quickly attacked by the Poles. Morkov didn't receive any reinforcements during the battle. Instead, Kościuszko's unit showed up at the late stage of the battle and stopped the Russian army from attacking the Poles with the help of very accurate artillery fire, which forced the Russians to retreat in disarray. That's how Kościuszko helped secure the victory at the Battle of Zielence. As a reward, King Stanisław August Poniatowski instituted what would become the highest Polish military decoration for heroism and courage on the battlefield, the Virtuti Militari. Virtuti Militari means in Latin, for military virtue. The king ordered the Royal Mint to cast the medals. The first 2 were given to the main commanders at the Battle of Zielence, Prince Poniatowski and General Tadeusz Kościuszko. Kościuszko was given the medal for being very active and clever on the battlefield. Furthermore, he received it for being the one who made the victory possible and for defending the Kresy, the eastern borderlands, from further Russian offensives. After some time, the Poles had to evacuate from Ukraine and retreat to the Bug River, where Kościuszko used his engineering genius to win the Battle of Dubianka. There, Kościuszko was attacked by another Russian general, Karczewski, whom Kościuszko managed to pin down, not allowing him to cross into ethnographically Polish territory. The Battle of Dubianka was very dramatic. Twice the Polish army panicked and started retreating, but Kościuszko's personal courage made the soldiers return to their positions and fortifications. Unfortunately, the border with Austria was located close to Dubianka, and the Russian army crossed into Austria in order to be able to encircle the Polish army. The Poles couldn't enter Austrian territory because that would mean war, while the Russians could, since the 2 states were allies. Kościuszko still managed to defend himself well against the attacker, despite being under attack on 3 sides. He conducted an orderly retreat in the 4th direction along the Bug River. His soldiers wouldn't fight another battle, as they soon received the tragic news that the Polish king had decided to join the camp of treason, the so-called Targowice Confederation. This was a group of nobles who were against the 3rd of May Constitution and supported the Russian invasion. The king had found out that Prussia was about to enter the war on the side of Russia and, wishing to prevent another partition of Polish territory, he attempted to regain favour with Empress Catherine the Great.
usiłował uprzedzić Prusaków i wkraść się ponownie w łaski Katarzyny.
General Tadeusz Kościuszko was one of the most prominent engineers and most brilliant military fighters of Poland. He left a mark on not only Poland, but also the history of the United States. That's it for today. I'm your host, Benjamin Lee. I'll see you next time on Poland Daily History.
Everybody, and welcome back to Poland Daily Travel. Boy, we got a good show for you. The sun is shining and we will be going over to Praga, the district of Warsaw, which is on the eastern bank of the Vistula River. We're going to start out, though, on the Holy Cross Bridge. From there to the west, you can see the spires of the gleaming new Warsaw. All those skyscrapers, very impressive. You can also see the old town to the north and the west. And on the east, of course, old Praga. Praga exists pretty much as it has for many centuries. It was not much destroyed during World War II. And now it's a popular bohemian hangout. We're going to take you for a walk right through the center of the main part of Praga. Action starts at St. Florian's Church. We'll see a milk bar and the 5 musicians statue, and hear a very famous song, A Dream of Warsaw it's called. And it's one of my favorites. We'll stop off at the Praha Cinema. Then we'll go to the market in Praga, the largest market in Warsaw today. The old school outdoor market hasn't changed much in 30 years. So come and have a look at alternative Warsaw. It's called Praga, and it's lots of fun. This is eye candy you'll happily digest. So come along. The next few episodes, we're on the eastern bank of the Vistula in Warsaw, in Praga district. Poland Daily Travel, the best travel about Poland you've ever seen. Hello, everybody, and welcome to Poland Daily, the show you love to love. I hope. Anyway, that's why we're doing it, because we want you to love it. We want you to love Warsaw today. We're going for a walk. I'm accompanied by the lovely Paula Otterstein,
hello.
Our associate producer. Yeah? Did you say hello? Yeah.
I did,
She said hello? Yeah. I thought I heard something. I was not sure. Perhaps it was a bird chirping.
That's what I was going to say.
Yeah. You were going to say that?
Yeah.
Yeah, we're on the same...
Great minds think alike.
Yes, we're on the same wavelength. Yeah. So anyway, but whatever that means. I never understood what that meant. I guess it means with radio signals. At any rate, here we are by the wonderful river in Warsaw, and I would just want you to know that next week we'll be going, or next series of programs after these will be going further afield to a place as strange as Łódź, which is one of David Lynch's favorite places in the world. So you know it's got to be intriguing and interesting. At any rate, behind us over here is the wonderful Copernicus Museum. And we're going to take you on a bit of a mystery, magical mystery tour, because we're going to go from this side of the river, which is old Warsaw, sorry, new Warsaw, reconstructed Warsaw with all the new buildings, and we're going to go across the river and be in the old part of Warsaw, which is called Praga. But first things first, let's go for a little walk. What do you think?
Yeah. And the weather is beautiful.
The weather is amazing. I mean, we hardly know what to do.
Underline that fact.
We have to underline it? Yeah, I agree. Yeah, the weather is incredible, but the water is still cold. Well, come on, let's go for a walk. What do you think?
Mm-hmm.
Do you like to, have you been to the Copernicus Museum?
No, I have not. Actually, no, I was downstairs, but I never went in. And you?
I haven't been, and I want to go because I want us to take the people there at some point and show them the inside, because there's some pretty cool exhibits there. It's supposed to be
it's all about like technology, I think, and what else?
There's a lot of technology, and they
modern
have
machines and
and the planetarium, because
like
it's
that.
Copernicus. There's a big planetarium.
Makes sense.
Yeah, and they're talking about space travel and stars and galaxies and this sort of stuff, which is always fun. And At any rate, we'll go sometime, but we have to get permission to go in. Yeah, and it's that's probably a whole series of programs, I think. Maybe talk to the people who run it. It's supposed to be one of the state-of-the-art museums. It's like going to some, you know, some adjunct of the Smithsonian in a way. It's that up to date. It's really nice. Yeah, something to be for Warsaw to be proud of.
But today we should celebrate the second or third day of spring, right? So
Yeah,
it's nice to be outside today.
Yeah, it's early spring when we're doing this. Yesterday, I think, was the vernal equinox. The days are equal.
Yeah.
And that's pretty amazing. You know, the thing about this part of the world, maybe Canadians know this too. You're Canadian, right? Yeah. You realize after the long winter how much you really want to see the sun and how it changes your mood.
But actually where I come from, it's usually, the weather is nicer than it is in different parts of Canada, because Vancouver doesn't get that cold.
Mm-hmm.
So
no, Vancouver, you're by the ocean there. Yeah. So it's the exception, but it's still not that warm, is it? Not in the winter. Yeah. Yeah.
It doesn't really go below 0 though, not very often.
Well, listen, stay with us. Poland Daily with Paula and me, and today we're going to walk through beautiful Praga, which is the other side of the river. Stay with us. Poland Daily. We'll be right back. We are now on the dividing line between West Warsaw and East Warsaw. We're on the Holy Cross Bridge. The Polish word for that is Świętokrzyska. And I'm joined, or we're joined, with Paula and me, and we're joined by Stan Jeglinski. And I didn't mean to say that with a Romanian accent or whatever that was, a bit like a vampire. But Stan, no, I sounded like one. Anyway, this is also the, not the newest bridge, but certainly the newest bridge in the center of the town, because there were not enough bridges, to be quite honest. That was the problem in the city. And this one was built about 20 years ago. It opened, maybe a little less. Yeah,
probably.
Maybe 18 years. Yeah. In the early 2000s. Yeah. And as you can see, it's a pretty nice bridge. But apart from that, you can see to this side, not to put my hand in front of Paula, to this side, we can see the skyline of Warsaw with the many buildings being built. And on this side, you'll see that it's not very built up at all. In fact, this is where you have a lot of bicycle paths and a lot of beach area for people to go to in the summer. But Stan, you were telling me before about the history of the bridges in this area.
Okay, so
can you tell us?
Of course,
Tell me.
Yeah. So on this location, there used to be one bridge before the war, which was called Most Kierbedzia.
Yeah.
It was sold. I can't really describe it, but it was typical end of the 19th century bridge.
Right.
The bridge itself was destroyed during the war. I think the Germans blew it up in 44 or 45 when they were leaving the town after the offensive of the Red Army on the 15th of January 1945. And then I think for a long period there was nothing here. But during the state of war declared by General Jaruzelski in
1983,
81,
yeah.
the army built a ponton bridge here, which lasted for a ponton bridge. Is that the word? Like a military
ponton.
Yes, on pontons.
So yeah, we understand.
Exactly.
At least I understand.
And I even remember it. I came here in '91 first, and I still remember that bridge. It was almost floating. And that bridge was torn down at the end of the 90s, and then this build was bridge. But the interesting fact about Warsaw and bridges is that until, let's say, the early 20th century, there was not much bridges on the river.
Not many bridges.
Yes,
there are a lot more now.
There are a lot more now, exactly. There was what used to be one there on the old town. You see that tower?
Yeah.
The bridge. It's the Church of St. Joseph, I think, on the new town, which is part of
the oldest church in Warsaw.
One of the oldest churches in Warsaw, and there's actually a gate opening in the Gothic style, which is the entrance of the earliest bridge in Warsaw, which was made out of wood. It lasted only about 100 years and was destroyed during a spring.
A flood.
Yeah, flood, exactly. Big chunks of ice just blew it up.
What would you say about Praga compared to, I mean, all of us, Praga compared to this side? Because some people who live on the western side say, and I don't want to go there, right? Yeah, because they say, oh, that's where there's too much crime, it's too old, it's not clean like this side. But this was the part that we're going to see of Praga, called Praga, which is the same name in Polish for Prague in the Czech Republic, but no relation. The part we're going to see was not destroyed. It was occupied by the Russians. I mean, some of it was blown up, but generally it was intact. Isn't that right?
It's let's precise it a bit. It was a town of. First of all, Praga was just a village for centuries, and it only started to emerge as a real part of urban part of Warsaw in the 19th century. But it was predominantly a poor area, like a working class area, and it had a distinct culture. And that's funny because now there's no real parts of Warsaw with a real pre-war culture in there, and Praga is probably the only one.
Well, we need to go see it.
Yes.
Okay, look, Poland Daily, travel. We're standing on the bridge that divides New Warsaw from Old Warsaw, at least newly reconstructed Warsaw from the Warsaw that has been the same way for quite a long time. We're going to go over and we're going to walk through those streets. So stay with us for the next program. Poland Daily Travel. See you later.